to redzējumu veidu un tam līdzīgi. Tā kā jā, vēlreiz liels paldies un droši uzdodam jautājumus kolēģiem, jo kas to zina, kad šais laikos vēl atbrauc šādi augsta līmeņa speciālisti, kas ir bijuši pašā augšā un kas zina, kā tas hokejs attīstīsies un kādi mūs tie hokejisti ir jārada nākotnē. Okay, paldies!
I think you did a great job. Obviously, Archie and Yanni, great job. Thank you very much. I did want to ask another member of our team to come up and talk a little bit. We are going to be working with the women's under 22 group this weekend, and a woman who I have a ton of respect for. I think is a little bit of a trailblazer, comes originally from a smaller country here in Europe, in Austria, where some of the opportunities were not as great. Grew up playing with the boys. I ended up meeting one of her coaches at 14 or 15 years old when she was playing on an all-boys team. And he said, yeah, she was my captain. And I said, wow. I said, why was that? She was better and she worked harder and she was more committed than all of the boys. And I just looked at her as a hockey player. And I think that's how we've always looked at her as well. She's just a hockey player. And the opportunities for women in the game today have grown, and they should grow, and they should be equal. And in many of our countries today, like in the United States, the percentage of young girls under age 10 or 12 is greater than that of boys joining the game for the first time. And hopefully in the future, and I know the Federation is working incredibly hard to make that happen, those opportunities will present themselves for young girls here in Latvia. Janine had the opportunity to come to the United States on a hockey scholarship and play at Providence College, and then went on to do some pretty neat things beyond that with the National Women's Hockey League, the only professionally paid league for women in the world right now. So without anything further, I'd like to introduce a good friend, one of our coaches, a phenomenal player, and hopefully an Olympian here in Beijing in 2022, Janine Weber.
Toby just took all my words from me. So, you know, everything a lot of things I was going to mention, he already mentioned, but I think an important piece he didn't mention is that I think the coaches play such a big role to, like, all of you in growing women's and girls hockey. Because when I was, 8, starting to play hockey, the coaches at first said, oh, this girl, she's not going to play for long, because I was the only girl in the whole organization from under 8 to U10, 12, up to the pro team. So they were saying how, this girl's not going to play for long. She can do the skating drills. And I didn't touch a puck for a while, and I played, I don't know what you call it in Latvian, but sharks and minnows, you catch other kids, and you don't have a stick, and you just skate. So my skating got pretty good, but the puck skills really weren't there yet. But one of the coaches took a chance on me for the under 10 team, and, I got to be part of the team. And again, that's something you coaches just, treat the girls like you would any of the boys, because really, I think if you give them a chance, you never know what's going to happen. Because if that one coach wouldn't have taken the chance on me when I was, 8, 9 years old, I wouldn't be here in Riga right now, and I wouldn't be, playing hockey, getting paid to play hockey. So really, it really starts at a young age. And like Toby said, if maybe my coach when I was 12 didn't choose me as captain, and then 2 years later, the boys voted for me, because I was just part of the team. There was this one tournament in my hometown, and the TV came, and they asked one of my teammates how it is to have a girl on the team. And he's like, what girl? Because that's how, they forgot I was just one of them. And, for the most part, I would say the coaches, treated me like any other player. And that's really everyone. That's all that girls want. Maybe they need their own locker room at some point, but just, I think that's something maybe the coaches can take, and just giving them a chance. And then, where I'm now, I think I'm talking to you as coaches and also the federation. Like, I'm from a small country where, and I'm saying this, and I don't think women's hockey is treated the same in Austria as men's hockey. And it's getting better. we had to provide our own black helmets, black gloves to play in world championships. And the U16 boys team, they go to a random tournament, I'm gonna say, and they get gear. I don't think that's fair. They're playing, also for their country, and so are we. And we have pride in that, and I've done that for over 14 years now, and it's getting better. But it comes from the federation. Like, now we all get that kind of gear, and we get clothes to wear, and we all look the same. But it took a while to get there, and I think sometimes you have to invest first before you get something out of it. It's not going to grow without investment. I'm talking money and time and resources. So I think that's something I don't really know how Latvia is, but I know it's a small country, and I've played against Latvia a few times in world championships and Olympic qualifications, and I know we were at a similar level, and Latvia was better than us. And again, I don't know what happened, but now they're a division or two below us, and I think obviously there's not many women playing that you can choose from, but I think you have to grow it from the bottom up, get more girls to play, keep them in the game, and then that grows competition along the road. And I was just at the Austrian camp, and for the first time we had 30 players at a camp where I think anyone could make the team, and now 10 players have to be cut, where it used to be there are 22 players to get cut. That's not a lot of competition. People kind of get comfortable, but I think everywhere in Europe, that's not Sweden and Finland for the most part. We have to grow from the ground up and get competition, get more women to play, or girls that turn into women down the road. But you have to, I think, invest the time and the resources in the beginning to get something out of it. And again, it starts with the coaches, just letting the girls play, treat them, expect them to get better, have the same expectations for them as the boys. And I think they'll, do great. I don't have anything to add right now, but obviously if there are questions later, I'll be happy to answer them.
I guess at this point here, and this goes for everybody who is listening online as well, we're fortunate we have, Dennis Miller here as well. And, people talk about Dennis because he coached in the National Hockey League for a long time. But truthfully, he got a start in coaching in the women's game, coached 11 years, Division I hockey, back east, University of Vermont, University of North Dakota, before joining the NHL game. So if there's questions that way, obviously we're going to get more into that this weekend with the women's team. But at this point here, both online and here, anything anybody wants to talk about hockey-wise, or things that we did, or things that can be done, things that are of concern to the guys here in this room, or anybody that's online right now, I guess. Just kind of open it up. So if you have questions online, if you could, just please write them into the chat box, and somebody here will read, and we'll try and answer those questions. But you guys can answer the questions yourself, whether they're to Yanni or Archie over the years, or any member of our staff. Obviously, you guys, we don't have the answers. We're trying to learn from you as well. So total open forum, guys. Anything we did this week, anything that you meet, and any questions you have for Yanni, about the Federation, where they're headed, support, thoughts. The microphone's there. Just whoever wants to talk, please grab it and go from there. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Start here live, and then we'll go to that one, Yanni.
Yeah. First of all, I have to start to say big thanks, Hockey Federations, that we were able to be here and share the experiences and to be part of this. And also big thanks to you guys that you came here and shared that passion for the game. For the first practices, you could feel it right away. And the way you worked as a team, that gives us kind of a new experience too. Because we were, like Jānis already told, from different kind of clubs here all together. And maybe that's also what we need to look up, that we are strong individuals, but if we share those knowledges, then we might have a chance for Latvian hockey to get even stronger. And also, question-wise, I know that you guys worked on repetition, a lot of repeating and stuff, but I know it's, well, I don't know, that's why I'm asking, but when you come to the camps, it's a little bit different how to working during the all year with the team. And different part of skating drills in mid-season, beginning of the season, and how many repetitions could you, and how you put the all season schedule, you know?
No, that
understand the question?
100%, and I'll leave it open to pretty much everybody. And like, I know, Dennis, you're big into practice planning and things like that. Two quick statements on that. The first one being, I think we have to break down walls everywhere. And I think I hope we have made it clear that coming here, I mean, obviously we have Janine with us, Frederick Anderson works with us. He coaches in the Swedish Hockey League. We have a couple Canadians that are part of our larger group. Obviously, Archie joined us now, but we were invited to come into your world, and not to tell anybody what to do, but just to share ideas and hope that your toolbox and that of all coaches, and we're hoping our toolbox gets a little bit bigger. But within Latvia, and I am learning, and it has been an incredible pleasure to learn. But yeah, I don't care if you're with, you know, the team here, you know, I don't care if you're with the Baltic Wolves. I don't care if you're with, you know, one of the other academies. You got to break the walls down. And I think Darryl mentioned it when he was speaking from Tampa Bay, well, from Arizona, excuse me. You know, obviously with Tampa for years building their program, but like he and his wife with their skating program, his wife Mosa puts all her stuff out there and shares it because she hopes that somebody will pick something up and use it. So I think one of the things that could happen here in Latvia, and to Yanni, is finding ways to bring people together in open forums and symposiums and hockey workshops and things like that, so that you guys are sharing all that information, break down the walls. And I think you've done that for us, and for that, we appreciate it greatly. As far as practice and repetition and all, you know, Dennis, Matt, if you have some ideas, but just on like our program, just say we have an organization 15 times per year. We'll go in there every Monday night. So every Monday night, we will do skating and some skill work with every team in the organization. The coaches will kind of be there to assist, but whether it be 1, 2, or 3 skilled coaches will go in and we will run their practice. Not just our group, there's some other groups that do a wonderful job, and we will run their practice. So on skating, stride, balance, and posture, if we have them 15 nights per year, basically once a week, with the exception of a couple of holidays over Christmas and all, we will do balance, stride, and posture session 1, session 2, session 3, before we even think about going into inside edges. When we move into inside edges, we will do inside edges session 4, session 5, session 6, but we'll also begin by reviewing stride, glide, balance, posture. Before we think about moving on to advanced inside edges, which we'll do session 7, 8, 9, we'll review inside edges, the introductions, body mechanics, body control. So those kids are getting the introduction. Then they're really doing it. Then they're doing everything at high speed with pucks, but it's still stride, glide, balance, posture. Then when they move on to introduction to inside edges on how their body works, they're still getting information in review of what they did in stride, posture, glide, etc. You know, when they get into shooting in stride, different things like that, every system we try and do at least 3 times. So 3 consecutive weeks will be focused on one specific skill. You know, it'll encompass a few different things, but it'll still be one full skill. So we try and do it that way and then continue that repetition. There's a book by a gentleman by the name of Malcolm Gladwell, right? And it's called Tipping Point, right? How many things happen? How many things happen? And he's written a couple, good to great, not good to great, but Tipping Point. Once you acquire a physical skill, you have to do something 10,000 times, and then it becomes a habit. So what we do in youth hockey is we get into passing, and the kids at a younger age can't pass. So what do? We don't want to run a bad practice because it doesn't look good, and it doesn't make us look good as coaches. So we do it a little bit, and we move past it. And then you get a coach that gets the player at 15, 16 years old, and you get kids who can't pass because we didn't want to spend 10 minutes per day just working on basic passing. So I think the biggest, and I hope that I answer it, like repetition. When we're doing skills, we try and work on them at least 3 consecutive weeks. And then we move on to what's next. So if you're planning out your season, these 3 weeks, we're just talking about depth, explosion, stride, posture, and then we'll move on to what is next. All right. Dennis, do you have anything to add? How that plans into a season-long practice?
Yeah, I think the number of games you play and when you play your games, just for example, when do you normally play, Friday and Saturday? Sunday. And how many practices during the week will you typically have? 4. Oh, nice. I would think, and this is, you know, without looking at the schedule, that your skating work could be done once a week where you focus just on the skating piece. And what age group do you have? Under 11. Yeah. That first practice every week, my first thought is that that could be their skating, finishing with the fun game, you know, similar to what we did out here. And then building towards your game that weekend. Do you do how much systems work? Do you do 5-on-5 power play, penalty kill? Maybe once a week. Yeah, which is I think is great, because at that age you can't execute a power play if you can't pass a puck and if you can't receive a puck. So working on those skills and building the progression from skating, adding pucks to that skill package, then adding pace or speed to it, and then a little bit of your team play or systems play, so they at least have an idea where to be. But I would think we used to run into it in the US a lot about what is the organization's goals. Do you need to win every game that you play on Sunday, or are they focused on the kids' development? But I would think that first practice could be skating, you know, second practice, review skating, adds a little bit of skill work. So does that make sense? Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this, like 4 practices a week for U11 is awesome, right? Yeah. I wish all our teams could have 4 practices a week. You know, usually at that age, most of the better organizations have 3. Some go 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. I'd say the better ones have probably 3, but to have 4 at that age, you should be able to get tons accomplished. I would break it down like Dennis said, 1 day is skating, 1 day is skill, 1 day is small games, 1 day is team play, team systems, or some type of get into a rhythm so the kids all know. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great that you have 4 a week at that age, I think. And when those of you who were here last night or online to watch me cry and then give the presentation, I make a big deal out of vocabulary. And Toby says, you know, some of the better teams, sometimes it's some of the bigger teams. and they're not necessarily better in what they're doing with those 3 practices a week. And Toby mentioned my fascination with planning. I like to spend a lot of time by myself planning a practice. And I always work backwards. What's the end goal? Where do you want to get your 11-year-olds to at the end of the season? You know, after those first few weeks when you see them skate, okay, what do they need most? What are they lacking in the skills? What are they lacking in the skating? And then start to build your plan that way. I enjoy that. I enjoy trying to figure out how I can make it work in the end, with the reward not necessarily being a championship celebration, knowing what each of those individual kids needs to get better. That's a long answer.
Do you have something like that? Okay.
You probably just moved on, right?
Yeah, no, that was What, there was a question online? If you were an hour, I think I would go more based on Dennis. I would come up with the end goal that I want for my individual players and my team. And I'm talking about what my February goal, my end of season goal is, and how I accomplish that. And then I would break my season into 4 parts, and part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and where I want to be. If you start practicing in August, where I want to be in October, December, January, and then at the end of the season, potentially in March. So how do I go about getting there? And that's a great question, Oleg. Once we get there, to your point, if I have 3 practices, one of my practices is going to be all skating and all skills. All skating and all skills, right? The guys at Providence College, Nate Lehman, like their first practice of the week is all skills, and they won a national championship 4 or 5 years ago. They skate skill, right? There are groups that will go skating one day, skills one day, small games one day, team systems one day. If you break that down even further into an individual practice, and you want to do it that way, I would say 1/3 of your practice should involve skating today. 1/3 of your practice. I think 25% should involve some type of small games. The kids have to be able to figure out the game. And I don't mean the small game, but how that helps them figure out the big game. And then as far as other stuff, they need to touch the puck. So as many puck touches as you possibly can, and then a segment on systems. If you break it up into 4 parts, you have your skating, your small games, your skill, and your team concept, 25, 25, 25. So if you have an hour, I would go 15, 15, 15, and 15. Here is something that we do, and I picked this up from the Bruins because a number of their guys have worked for us, and Trent Whitfield skated with us, trained with us, and now works with us. They don't start a practice without a small game. And they found that the energy level and the involvement and the creative, mindset of their players always is better when they start with a small game, and they always try and end it with a small game. So if you have 15 minutes, I'd take 6 or 7 minutes at the beginning and 6 or 7 minutes at the end, because you want them pumped up and you want them leaving pumped up, right? And I'll just refer one small story. One of my best friends, our captain in college, Scott Sear, phenomenal skater back in the 80s. He was about this big. And he moved out to Idaho, near Wichita, which is on the other side of our country. And he didn't play pro afterwards. And there's a pro team out there now. And people all said, "Do you come out to play for the Steelheads?" And he said, "No, I came out because I'm an electrical engineer, and I was coming out to make big money." I said, "Well, and hunt mountain goats." So that's what he did. And then he had a boy. And of course, he wanted his son to play hockey. So his son was a 96 born, I think it was, a 97. So I go the other way. I go into pro hockey, and I'm out on the road scouting and things like that. And I never have seen a kid from Idaho. I've never seen a kid from Idaho moving up the ladder. It's a state. It's a a section of our country, not known for hockey. Well, all of a sudden, I'm watching the United States Hockey League, the top junior league in our country, like one of the best in the world. And there's some kids from Idaho. I'm like, where did these kids come from? And then I'm watching some college hockey. And now a few kids are playing college hockey. And you're looking, and all the kids who did were 95s, 96s, 97s. So Scott Sear, give him credit. David Ingraham, Cal Ingraham, right? Cal, phenomenal player at University of Maine, pro. Did he win the Hobie Bake? No, he didn't. He played with Korea because Korea won the Hobie Baker that year. But that level of player, like they won a national championship, unbelievable skill. Guess who was living in Boise, Idaho? Those guys. So they tried to get Scotty to take over the program and start coaching. And he said, the only way I'll do it is if, to your question, Alex, and again, talking with younger kids, the first 20 minutes of my hour is going to be skating all year long. All year. I don't want to hear anything from the parents because it ain't about you. It's about my kids, my players. And if I'm going to do it, I want all the teams to do it. They couldn't get all the teams to do it, but he ran that group. So the kids that were a year above his son and a year below his son and their sons all got this method. So they did it every practice. They practiced 3 days a week. The first 20 minutes was all skating. They went to the national championship. I don't think they won, but they went to the nationals in Tier 2 in New Jersey one year. He said going into that tournament the week before, they were still doing 20 minutes of skating. Well, you know what? Something happened in that group because after they left, this children moved on. They were all volunteers. Children went on. You didn't see a lot of kids from Boise, Idaho out there anymore. So to say how you set up your practice is important, but what you do in your practice matters. They worked on skating every single practice for 20 minutes, and that was his rule if he was going to coach. And something happened because that whole group of kids had some players move on to play at a really, really high level. So I think it works. And before him, not a lot, and after him, not a lot, right? So I think what you do and what you include really, really does matter. Maddie, on that, anything?
Yeah, got something real quick. And all the youth teams, like I came up through the system coaching, coaching mites and squirts and peewees and bantams and midgets. So I did all that. I was coaching all those teams coming out before I even got to Toby, coaching high school and freshmen and all those kids. And that's what I did every practice was 15, 20 minutes. My nephew took over the high school that I graduated from a long time ago. You want to hold this for me? That's what he did because he skated with me, and that's what he always did was he did 10, 15 minutes, and they ended up going to the playoffs the first time. And since I was a 94 and I took them to the playoffs, that was their first time back in the playoffs. But talking about that is you can do those systems, but you can break them out down to what he said yesterday. It's not just a full 5-man breakout system. I can now divide the ice up into 4 corners, and I can say, okay, my D are going to work on breaking the puck out on this side, and just that's their move. Come down, open up, move the puck, and then the other side, the D are doing the same thing, and then you switch them, and then the forwards are doing something a little different down there. They're working on open up, receiving that pass, right, from the coaches or whatever, and then going in for a shot. You can divide the ice up and you're still working on your systems, but you're focusing on those individual skills within those systems. Because everyone's seen someone run a mite practice out there, and the 6-year-old skating back, and he throws the D to D pass to his buddy, and it goes into the boards, into the corner. And then the other 3 kids are skating backwards, tapping their sticks, waiting for them to pass the puck, and the puck's still in the corner. And it's like, you sit there and it's painful. It's painful to watch. I hate watching those practices. It just drives me nuts. So you can work on those small skills within those practices, which now everyone's getting puck touches, right? You got 2 kids down here getting puck puck touches down there, down there. So now we got 6 kids that are all touching pucks and playing instead of one kid making one pass, fumble into the corner, and then away it goes, right? So now you can divide up those skills way better. And that's what I like to do. I think that's a lot more fun.
And to follow up on that, in this phenomenal question, we have these little books that USA Hockey and some other coaches, a lot of people submitted some things just to have some thoughts and have some ideas. So we run a summer program. We train kids for 6 weeks. We train college guys. We train some pro guys, some up and coming like juniors, 14, 15-year-olds, and they skate with us 3 days a week. And it's all individual based in the summertime to try and make them better. So when they get to their team in September, they have made themselves better. So Trent Whitfield and I were talking about a few different things on how we could do something a little bit different. I was sitting at home and I was just looking at some stuff, and I'm looking down here. So this is for under 8. And I'm looking at this, and this is going to be exactly Matt's point. I'm looking at this, and ice is broken down into 6 components. And when we do a big camp, like this was great. We had 20 kids. We didn't have to do that, but ice is broken down into 6 components. And we took this and we used it for our college guys. So our 18 to 22-year-olds. So they moved, and Janine was at this practice. They moved from one thing to another, to another, to another, to another, to another, to another, 5 minutes each. So for 30 minutes, we did an 8-year-old practice, right? We mixed in a few 10, 12-year-old things. Like Maddie said, just a quick little puck retrieval and move it up, a quick little puck retrieval and move it up. But basically, we ran an 8-year-old practice for college guys. One of my favorite kids, a kid by the name of Tyler Bork, phenomenal player. He says, that was one of the best practices ever, Toby. Like, that was awesome. So there's a 20-year-old college sophomore saying, this was great. So to Matt's point, why can't we mix in components of your, so if you have 18 guys on your team, 20 guys on your team, and you split them into 6 stations, you have 3 players doing reps. They're doing your retrieval, breakout, open your hips. Retrieval, breakout, open your hips. How many times did they do that? And then they move to another one, and they're catching passes in the neutral zone, catching passes in the neutral zone. And then at the other end, they're catching rims off the wall, right? Again, I use the Bruins because they're my local team. They do rims off the wall all day long in the offensive zone, picking up the rim, getting it over, making a quick side-to-side step. So, yeah, just include them into your station-based practices and do them a ton. You don't need one group down here and one group down here. Have a bunch of kids doing a lot of work.
Owens has the mic, but I can do this. So the next, now, the other thing too is you can do that with PPPK. And we did it in the NHL.
Let me hold it because this one's
okay. Where we actually did, where we were trapping down on a half wall, and we had guys that would practice that trap down, up, pressure the D, he'd move it to the wall guy, and now we're doing that. We're doing it here, we're doing it over there, and then we have the D doing something different in the corner, right? So that was a pro practice where we're dividing up into the one zone into 4 areas, doing 4 different skills, right, for each player. And then you start incorporating the power play, and that was just coaches' passes, right? So they would come to me, and I'd do this, and they'd trap down, and I'd try to find a seam. And then you incorporate just a half wall climb, where now you're working on the power play. So I walk the line, I just give it back to that player. Now he's working on climbing, getting that puck, rolling in it, and snapping that puck. And that's part of your power play, right? And those are those little skills within the power play that now is broken down to small components. And now you're getting a lot of kids moving. You're getting everybody involved. You get 4 or 5 kids rolling off the wall, shooting pucks.
How can I do things that are really good differently, right? How can I do things that are really good in a different manner? Anything else online? Yeah.
To ask like a little bit add to that. So the thing that when you say skills, because I would say maybe the skating is also skills, but skills like you mean it's more like hand skills or something, because you said skating and then it's skills. So for me to understand, I don't know if somebody else.
So when we say skating, skating is skating. right? Skating is pure skating. And I had the picture of that woman up there, the figure skater the other day. We put sticks in kids' hands sometimes too young, right? And teach them to play hockey and teach them this and teach them that so that my 10-year-old team can win, right? So skating is a skill by itself, right? So when we're doing skating, we try and do skating quite a bit without pucks even, because we want them to focus on the balance, the posture, the skating, the smooth. Dow was talking about his wife, Jill. You watch their programs, half of it, when they're skating, they are skating purely, and then they bounce down the other side of the ice, do some skill work. What we try and do, Oleg, is we try and teach skating, and then whatever we're working on skating, we try and incorporate skills around that. So if we're doing full ice stride, glide, things like that, we might do catching the puck and shooting in stride.
No, the thing, what I mean is the meaning of the word, like the word itself, like skills. Okay, so that involves stick and getting puck. That's what I mean. That's
yes.
Thinking like I would say skill, maybe skating is also a skill for me. That's why I asked. Maybe guys know,
yeah.
But
I got you. Totally got you.
That's one thing, and then so I get it. So it's more skills. It's whatever, like kind of we would say technical things. Or
yeah.
Reaching the court, getting the puck, passing the puck. That's skills.
But try and figure out how we can tie skills. You're right. Yeah, skating is a skill. And how does what we're teaching transfer into other skills that we can teach and glue them together and then move on to something else? Building block 1, building block 2, building block 3.
Yeah, so, okay, that is one thing. The second thing I wanted to ask is you're saying about systems, right? So that is one other thing, like what you said, you break down the system and then it's a system work. How about like in states, do you have really like a systems, like really those 5-guy systems, this one time a week? I would say probably it's too much. On listening to also to your like seminar here, yeah, that we are talking, that I would rather now, I think that I would rather do skill work than do 2-on-1. Like, why would I do 2-on-1 for 11-year-old? If he has a skill, he will get there. Like, I should not do it every week. I maybe do it like once a month. I maybe write it on a board that there are a couple things, couple versions of 3-on-2, couple versions on 2-on-1. I put it on board and guys would come, okay, 2-on-1 is like that. But today we don't do it. We do it like after 2 weeks maybe, but I'm just getting a skill. And then there will be no problem for me. That's what I mean. So I'm asking.
So can you incorporate that, just say a 1-on-1 into that retrieval, bump up in one little square of the ice, and then it's a quick little 1-on-1 where they're playing, they're boxing out, they're using their feet, they're using their stick. Let me change that around because you guys are smart. What do you guys think? Like how much team systems should you do? And here's the other question, Alex. Obviously, you know, and you've done a great job coaching the under-18 team and things like that.
I don't talk about myself.
But I'm talking about like 8-year-old
kids. Yeah.
I think at the younger ages, it should be more skill-based.
And the only system is just this, like Matt said, right? That's a system work, not the 5-on-5 things, or that's a system work. But you just every, like I say to my guys, I said every drill that I do, guys, is the game. And that's pretty much a system. Like if there is some drill, you think that if I told you to turn like that, I don't want you to turn just in this drill. I want you to turn like that in the game. So that's why I'm asking for, like, we are sometimes doing those 5-on-5 drills. I know in the hockey school where I'm coach, I see coaches do that in a practice. It kills me. They're making system. They're showing how they have to move. Of course, that team is doing better comparing to others, maybe because they have a system, but do they have a skill? And I say, after 10 years, I need them to have that game. Not now. I don't care about that game when they're 11. You know, that's why I'm asking about you talking systems, so we understand. Is a system divided in small pieces, or is it a real system work that? Because you said once a week system work, and now we're thinking, oh shit, 11 years old. Okay, once a week we do 5-on-5, but it's not that you're talking about, right? Okay.
Right, but I still think that you still have to incorporate a little bit of knowledge about the game, right?
A little
So
bit
where
set
to
up.
be, how to be with 5 other guys on the ice, maybe not just in that corner. So I'd still incorporate at times where now I still need to know if I do a D-to-D pass and I'm 12, I need to know where that guy's supposed to be, right? So our positioning on the ice still has to be taught as well, because you get the older age groups. I mean, Celeste Brown, who works for us too and coaches RIT women's hockey, we had a Zoom call every week, and she's like, Maddie, she's like, these girls don't know where to go, right? She's like, I'm teaching them where to go in the power play. They don't understand. They can't. So you still have to find that fine line of teaching where to be with 5 guys on the ice. No different than you have to teach them on a face-off, right? When you see the might skate and they're goalies on that side and they're lined up on this side, you're like, hey, over here, right? You got to still teach them those parts. And when I did that, the talk in March, I defined it as like, I think 75 or 85% of your practices or part of that practice should be skill work, but you still need to have, a little bit of that teamwork as well, because they got to understand how to work as a partner in D, how to work as a 3-man unit as forwards, right? And 5-man and the goalie, right? What the goalie's supposed to do, how to teach those, when the goalie comes out to stop it, whether he's a righty or a lefty, where am I leaving? On the wall, or am I pulling a little further off the wall? So that stuff still has to be incorporated. It's just now when you play a game, so now during the season, and as the guys talked about, you divide it up into sections. When you play the game, now you analyze and say, hey, my guys have no idea where to go in this particular system. So we might have to say, D-zone coverage, this is what we do, right? This is our guidelines. This is what we do. And then within that, you might teach them that small skill, forwards here, I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this. And you incorporate with a little conditioning too, a little condition skate, and they skate in their positions and away they go. So you still have to find that line, and it's every team's different, whether it's 8, 10, 12, 18. You gotta find, that's your personal preference, how much you want to decide, and every game will be might be a little bit different. I kind of say it's like keeping balloons in the air, right? Well, if I'm keeping this blue and this red one up, well, the green one might start to fall. So I got to go over here and keep this one up, and now that gray one's starting to fall. So now I'm like this. So I'm juggling these things. It's like, how do I keep all those balloons at that certain level where I can kind of keep everything going? Because if I do skating all the time, but my kids have no idea where to go, then there's guys in the NHL that can skate 100 miles an hour, but they don't know where to go. They have no idea. Everyone's played with those guys, right? So you got to find those balloons and keep them up in the air.
And then I think you can also identify things that your team is doing well and things are not within that. And then you can break down those small areas into Matt's practice, Dennis's practice, and work on them during some of your individual work practices. So if your team's having trouble and they don't understand how to break out, and again, we're getting young, then maybe do some retrievals, and one half of the ice or one half of the zone is just doing retrievals and retrieve. And all of a sudden you've just done it, 80 times in 2 weeks. Now you put them into a whole big group. And just because you've included that a lot, all of a sudden now you break out your 5-on-5 group and they're doing it. So you can identify things. And I think at different ages, those percentages change a little bit too, Oleg. I will give a guy a little bit of a shout out, and a couple of guys asked for a book of small games. We had a coach in the United States, played on the Olympic team from Lake Placid, New York, and he went on to coach Division II college hockey at a very high academic school called Middlebury College. And Dennis, may have some familiarity with him, a guy by the name of Bill Beanie. And Bill would do small games with his team. Small games. Like 75 to 80% of his practice would be small games. 3-on-3, 3-on-3 down low, 2-on-2, 2 defensemen having to figure out how to break out of a small area with 2 forwards, forechecking them. And if they were able to get by him and create something or do a reverse, they'd get a point. And if these guys forechecked him, so it was constant small area battles. That's all he did. And you'd go look at his practice and you'd be like, when are they going to do breakouts? When are they going to do 2-on-1s? When are they going to do full line right? Well, he was doing them here. he won how many national, like he just won. Middlebury College just won. They just won, and they just won. I think he was the first Division II coach, might be the only one ever to coach a U.S. World Junior team too, right? Like, you know, he's a technical advisor for USA Hockey and all, but it was just creating small area games, and his team knew to wheel, they knew to overload, they knew, you know, they just knew where to be. So, you know, there's a huge benefit of including small games, especially for the young kids, because at some point they have to problem solve themselves. And to Matt's point, sometimes we have to give them an idea of where to go. And we're a big believer in the ADM, breaking the ice up into small areas and all. But to Matt's point, some of those kids still need to know a little bit of guidance. So you have to introduce it at some point.
Does everybody understand small games, by the way? Like small area games?
No, actually, we've got different think on that, because you call it 2-on-2. It's a small game.
So
yeah,
small.
we don't call it small game.
Yeah.
In Latvian, like now I'm like,
you got
okay, so it's small game now.
Yeah. So small game is just a small area.
You got it. You're fine.
Small area with some sort of purpose, whether it be practicing 2-on-2, where it's just a small area, small part of the ice where not the entire team is focused. The other part of the team is doing stick handling or skating or whatever the lesson you want to teach. And then the small area game is focused on whatever you want it to be, what you want it to be focused on. And usually how the human psyche works is if it's a game, if there's competition, they're not thinking about how to do it. They're thinking about how to win the game rather than how to actually get everything done, I guess, if that makes sense. So a lot of like small area games is just your creativity of whatever you want, whether it be moving through the zone and trying to make one direct pass. If that direct pass makes a goal or a point for your team, it helps. That competition kind of helps grow the person's creativity on how to achieve that, whatever the goal is. And yeah, a game can be anything. 2-on-2, it's 2-on-2, it's battling. All right, which guy do I cover if my partner falls down? Now it's 2-on-1. I have to think about that. And to kind of answer your question on how much to do team stuff, I guess backtrack a little bit how we got here. If you have an hour-long practice 3 times a week for an 11-year-old, yeah, 1 day a week of all systems, that's a lot, right? But you have 40 minutes, you can do skating and skills. All right, all those skills could be puck retrieval or just simple D-to-D passing or whatever you want to focus at the end. And then the last 10 to 20 minutes, those 10 minutes could be all 5 players working together, putting together all those little skills that you just practiced for 40 minutes, whether it be puck retrieval, whatever. And then put a small area game at the very end to increase the competition and creativity possibly. It doesn't have to be one full day of something. And that's the same with skating. It doesn't have to be one full day of skating. It can be a couple sections of skating, a couple of skill, and then you come back together and you're doing a full ice drill or something. But you need to make the most out of your hour, whatever you are trying to achieve in that hour.
I'll give probably one of my best friends in hockey a shout out to Scotty Allen. And he coaches the Hershey Bears now, coached on the island. One of Dennis's closest friends in the game as well, I would say. Coaching for the Panthers, coaching Arizona. Unbelievable development coach. And he always said, get me better players and I'll be a better, if I can get me better players so I can get off the bus with the better players, I'm going to be a better coach. Coaching is a little overrated sometimes. Make your players good. And at the end of the year, you'll be a better coach. You get off the bus with better players, you're going to be a better coach. It's working for Scotty, you know, his kids keep moving up and they do skills and they do skills and they do skills and they do skills, right? And he never played at the highest level. He beat his brains in playing at the lower levels of the minors, but he got it. He said, if I can make my players better and I get off the bus with better players, I'm going to be a better coach. I can, at the pro level, at the higher level, you can show something on a board. You can show, they know what a 2-1-2 forecheck is. They know what an overload power play is. They know they can execute those things. But if your players aren't good enough to do them, it doesn't matter if the other team has better players. So he always said, even at the pro level, Alex, I'm going to invest a large percentage of my time on skills, skating being one of them. He was trying to help himself get off the bus with better players. Better players makes you a better coach.
And a good goalie makes you a great coach.
What else? What else? Yes. And everybody answer these questions, please, because like more than a lot of us, like we just have ideas.
Like Toby, earlier today you were talking with parents and you just mentioned like if the junior player have changed like 4 teams in like last 4 years, that's a straight no. Can you tell us and talk more about straight no's and yes when you scout for a junior player? Like, of course, it's like athleticism, skating, and hockey IQ, but like what's more no's and what's more yes when you look for a player?
Phenomenal question, like phenomenal question. And that's something I pride myself in and something I kind of miss a little bit, to be honest with you. You know, everyone knows things that they're really good at in the world. And I felt player personnel and player scouting was something that just was something that came natural. I love coaching. I love working with kids, but I loved scouting, you know, and I loved the build. I made a comment this morning when we were talking to parents. Gentleman asked a great question. If my son's playing for a coach that isn't willing to learn and has a quote unquote closed mind, which is what Dowell talked about, which is what Chris McAvoy, our educational advisor, talked about. And he's taken the passion away from my son. What should I do? Is it okay to change teams? And I said, if the coach is not willing to educate themselves with an open mindset, yeah, absolutely. 100%. Shame on that coach. At the same time, we have parents in North America, and I'm sure you do here, who go from one organization to the other organization to the other organization to the other organization. When I was scouting, and even more so, and probably Dennis, when you were recruiting, coaching college hockey, if you looked at a player and they had played on 4 different teams in 4 years, I usually said no, because usually there was a reason for that, right? Either they were trouble or they were never happy where they were. They were looking for something better. Not all of them, but I would say 8 or 9 out of 10 of them. So that was my answer to them. We would look at kids coming into pro hockey and they played on 3 different, they played on one bantam team, U14. They played on a different U15 team. They played on a different U16 team, and they got traded twice in junior. There might be a story behind that. So if there is a legitimate reason to change, please do. Scouting. Davil said it. Character, you ain't changing character. Mistakes. I think you've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. You've made mistakes, right? I've made mistakes. I think mistakes are one thing. I think character flaws is something different. So if they have bad character, not a chance. You make a mistake when you're 15 or 18. Well, I hope you make your mistakes then instead of when you're a father or a parent, right? So if a kid makes a mistake, no. If a kid has bad character, the answer is no, right? Hockey IQ, how you think the game. If you can't think the game, it's going to be hard to play the game. If you have high hockey IQ and high character and good skill set, but your feet aren't perfect, I'm going to take you. If you can skate, your skills are just so, but you have high hockey sense and you have high character, I'm going to take you, right? There are few things other than character that I'm going to say no to you on. Size doesn't matter. Size really doesn't matter anymore. Do I like 6'3" guys? who can skate and who have good hands, right? And high IQ? Yeah, you bet you, right? Anders Lee doesn't have great feet, the captain of the New York Islanders. We took him because he has elite character, elite athleticism, fantastic hands, and he's willing to make his feet as good as he can. I'll take a chance on that guy all day long, right? And he's a 30-goal scorer in the National Hockey League and the captain of the Islanders now. So there are few things that way. I hate walking into a rink, and this is what young kids need to see. This is what your kids need to see, Oleg, and I will talk about the 18 team. Not yours, but any 18 team. If kids have bad body language, I am putting it, and I might not cross them out, but I am putting a star next to them to watch that. Because if kids have bad body language or players have bad body language, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Don't show frustration. Don't show down. Don't show anger. Don't show selfishness. Don't show, right? I talked about it before. We were looking, going way back to the Islanders, John Tavares' draft. There was rumors that John Tavares was uncoachable and selfish. So in major junior hockey, the scouts get an ID card, an NHL card, and it allows you to come into the games for free. They usually have like food, a suite or somewhere you can sit. Well, in London, they get 10,000 people every night for a junior game, and they only seat 9,000, right? So if you go there as a scout, you sneak in and you stand behind a pole and you do this. Well, we were making a big decision. Do we take John Tavares or Matt Duchene? And he was playing for Brampton at the time, I believe, for Stan Butler. So I was driving back and forth from Brampton, Ontario, Toronto, out to London every other night watching these guys. And my boss calls me, our assistant GM, Ryan Jankowski. He said, Tobe, can you get up close and personal with Tavares? I said, I think. So I looked, I called a friend, sold out. He got me a ticket, $200. I paid for a ticket for a junior game. And I sat 2 rows behind, $200. I sat 2 rows behind the London Knights bench, who was coached by Dale Hunter at the time.
So you didn't see the game.
Right there. Know what I watched? I watched John Tavares on the bench. How did he interact with his teammates? How did he interact with the coach? How did he interact that? You know who was saying he was uncoachable? People who were jealous of him. People who were jealous of him because he was the first kid ever to be granted exceptional status and allowed to play major junior as a 15-year-old. Hunter, barked. Right. Get to the bench. You coached him. I watched him. He needed a little time to process things. But on the bench, he would talk. He leaned over, power play. He took instruction from other people, right? There was zero of that. And I don't know how you enjoyed him as a coach, but it was a bunch of hogwash. But if a kid is uncoachable, sometimes it's mom and dad too, right? But if a kid is totally uncoachable or a pro is uncoachable, I'm probably going to pass on him too. But there are a few physical things that I would say, no, if they can't think the game, I'm going to say no.
What age would you say you know that he can sing the game? You said you watched Tavares at 15. Is that the age, or there is 17 the age? Or...
I didn't like Tavares at 15. I had enough trouble trying to figure out who the 18-year-olds were all around the world, let alone trying to figure out who the 15s were. But I knew of John Tavares, right? I think when you start to pick them up is when they come into your world. Like for me as a scout in the National Hockey League, I was picking them up. I saw a few of the 17s, right? Like some of the smaller countries, you guys once in a while would have a 17. Switzerland would have a couple 17s every year. Germany would have a couple 17s. You'd watch them. I would go watch the Canadian under-17 team play a couple times, the US under-17 team play a couple of times. Every now and then you had an underager playing for Finland or Sweden, right? You'd watch them just to get an idea. It was important to me on what the 18s were. So I think it goes to whenever they come into your circle, that is important. but it doesn't take long to see if a kid can think the game. You know, I use this kid's analogy all the time. If you really care and you study about players, I had done 3 games that day. I had done a 1 o'clock game, prep school game. I had done a 4 o'clock prep school game in the Boston area. And I was trying to get to see the University of Massachusetts at Lowell in a hockey East. I think they were playing Boston College that night. So in their rink, beautiful Civic Center, you walk up the end. So you're walking up behind the goal, and 6,000, 7,000 people at the game. I walked up and I got there 10 minutes late, coming from another game. I didn't have my sheets. I didn't have anything at that point. I hadn't got to the press box. I walk up, and he'll know the player I'm talking about. I walk up, and this kid for UMass Lowell in the far corner gets the puck, and he wheels the net. And when he comes around the net, he goes right to left, and he turns up ice like this, and his legs are out under him. This leg is extended. This leg is extended. He heads up ice. He leans this way. He moves this way on a guy. Next thing you know, he's in the neutral zone. He's looking this way. He pulls up. He finds the guy on the weak side. I watched him play for 7 seconds, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? It was Chad Ruedel. I knew in 7 seconds he had a chance to be a pro. I'd never seen him. That was his freshman year. And we brought him to camp in Buffalo. I talked with him early on and everything. And because I showed early interest in him and a commitment to him, once he got to his junior year, he had 24 teams offer him a contract, and he signed with us, right? He ended up with Chad Ruedel. Was he there when you were there? So Chad was never more than like a 7-8 defenseman in the National Hockey League. But that's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. So, huh? He's still there. And he's still there. And he's got a Stanley Cup ring from the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? That's pretty good, right? If you can't think, or you have bad character, or you're uncoachable, it ain't happening for you. All those other things, let's work with you.
I completely agree on that because parents many times ask, how can you I'm like, I need 1 shift pretty much, like maybe 2, like to understand if he understands the game. Like it is pretty, of course, it depends on the level of when maybe somebody is shy, or if you are playing in your environment, it's 2 shifts. Like.
Yeah. And Maddie, please, can I give you guys a compliment? But I really want to give our players a compliment, and your players, because you represent Latvia here. Yeah. And we only have 40 of them on the ice, 37, because we have a Lithuanian, a German, and an Estonian. Okay, so we have 37. They are some of the most coachable kids I have been on the ice with in a long time. Now, granted, those are the kids who want to be here today. Those kids in our camp, and I hope you guys have, how good have they been? I hope you have the opportunity to work with them, because sometimes in our country, they're entitled. Mom and dad have told them they're awesome. They're wonderful. They're the next coming of Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid. The kids here, and this is my first experience, have been unbelievably receptive, and they process and then they try. So something you're doing is working.
Just on the lines of the hard nose, and probably you're leading more towards the younger kids of what's a hard no. I would say the parents that are overly involved and drive you nuts are going to have a tendency for me to be reconsidered, right? I don't care how good that kid is, but if the parent is going to be a problem, then I would be like, I'm going to think about that one. Or you have those rules right away where you're like, parents, this is my team. I don't want to hear about it, right? We've been in many Mid-Am district, USA Hockey, the Mid-Am district, which is Pennsylvania, Ohio, where we've had kids that have been good enough to play, but the parents have caused the reason for those kids not to make it because they've been a problem. And it becomes an issue, becomes a distraction on the team for every player. That's also, you'll ask questions, or you put the rules in place, and then you see what happens from there.
And it's the pro game. There are some wives that are problems, right? And they can ruin a team, and the wrong parents can ruin a team. There are guys who don't get jobs because of their partners, right? And same thing with parents. I think at the kids level, to Matt's point, it happens and it needs to, and parents need to hear that message. They need to hear that message. It's a player's game. At the pro level, it's the player's game. It ain't your game. It ain't my game, right? It's the player's game. It's all about the players. And at youth, it's all about the players. So if you got a great kid with crazy parents, that's a hard one. But, you know, you got to walk that fine line. But again, I hope some parents are listening too, because it is a player's game. Let them play.
I will add.
I'll just hold it.
Yeah, I will add one more thing to what you said, Toby.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I have been asked quite a few times, and I'm not going to say about whom and by whom, about players, okay, from NHL. Sometimes random people call me and they ask about player or certain player or somebody, if I know of someone who I can tell that it's worthwhile a look. It happens because it's just the way it works. It's networking, right? They look for somebody in Latvia and they call. I have not, except one time, because I had to do this favor to my friend. I have never suggested player who might be skilled, who might be good, but he has bad character, or I cannot. I don't know if my advice, my endorsement won't boomerang back. You understand? I will say he's a good player, but I'm not gonna give my word for him. And it all depends on character. I might say, you know what? I don't know if this guy is gonna make it. He's not there yet, but I know he works hard. And when you are working with him, you won't say a one bad word, what kind of teammate he is, and you won't say, oh, I had a hard time working with him. It was a waste of time. You will never say that. You will say, he was a good guy. He just didn't cut it. When I was in Washington, I was asked, okay, there is this camp in July for prospects. Do you know someone who could come? We are looking for players. There are a few spots. I said, yeah, you will like these guys. I don't know if they will work out, but they won't distract the picture. They won't be distraction. You will like these guys. Not most skilled. How about this one? I said, no. It will ruin your camp. It will ruin your day. If camp is 4 or 5 days, one of the day will be ruined. And that's to Toby's point. Character is so important.
And let's not say Toby, because Toby's just a schmuck who cares a lot. Toby is a schmuck who cares a lot, right? Maddie agrees, right? But what about Steve Eisman? Darryl Plandowski said if there's a character issue or an uncoachable, Steve Eisman doesn't care. You ain't coming, right? That's Captain Canada saying it, right? So let me ask you one question. Well, let me ask you guys one question. What if you have a chance to get the best player in town or the best player in Riga? What are there, 6 teams, 7 organizations in Riga? Yeah. So just say there's a half a dozen to 8 organizations in Riga, and the best player plays for you, but he calls you and wants to come, but you know he has bad character, but you've got a 14 team that's pretty good or a 15 team that's pretty good. What are you going to do?
Well, if I know like he's going to ruin up the team's chemistry, then I will probably say no. But if I got like 10 kids on the team and I need that 11th one, then yeah, I probably will say yes.
All right. Like, we just have to think real carefully with that. And let's not kid the other ones. Like if you have real strong leadership, like the Bruins, just say the Bruins, right? The Bruins, obviously Chara's moving on and all, but the Bruins have some of the, and I hate saying that because like I've referenced them a lot because I know that team a lot now since I've left the NHL. That's a strong core of leaders, right? Chara and Bergeron and that crew. You could put a player that is underachieved in some other places and they can pull you in and get a lot out of you, right? but that's a question you have to ask yourself. If you have a chance to get a real good player, but he's a bad act or she's a bad act, what do you do?
And just to pick up on that point, you really have to fully understand your leadership within your team. I think we throw phrases around a lot. We read books. We think we understand it. You really have to know your group, because I've been in a number of meetings where this scenario comes up. He can add to us on the ice. We're not sure what he'll add to us in the room. And there's always a debate. Our group is strong enough. Our group is strong enough. You got to be really, really careful, because we've seen it up close where that player can come in and he can completely blow things up. Maybe he's stays on an even level for a while, but that character will reveal itself. Maybe he stays on that even level while he's with you, and then he moves to another team, and then it really blows up. And that team thought, we've got the strongest leadership going, because I've seen it play out. So you really have to know your group. It goes back to what I talked about last night. You really have to understand how each of your kids works. And that includes 8-year-olds to your 18-year-olds. How do they interact with one another? And that really takes time to get to know them as best you can, to fully understand what is at home. We talk about identity. What's my team's identity? You really have to be confident that you know what it is, and you know how those kids interact and how they might react to that questionable character coming in. So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm saying it's really tricky, really, really tricky.
And you guys all probably have different answers to that, right?
Can I say something about? Oh. No. Yeah, I just want to say something about this. This is very interesting discussion that we're having here, but I would say for myself, I would take any kid and I would challenge myself. I would challenge my team to take the worst player or the best player with bad character, because I believe there really is no bad humans. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. And that is another great, point and a counterpoint. And that's why I say everybody here probably has a different answer for different situations. And I look at it as the same, and these guys know, and all, like, your passion, you think you can make a difference in everybody. And I think all of us should always feel that way, as you get to higher levels, to Dennis's point, I think you have to be careful, and you have to ask yourselves questions on that. And then how much of you can you give? How much of you can you give that will take away from the other 14 players, and then weigh it out. And then you start to make the decision that is best. I don't think any of you are involved in this because you don't care, right? Especially at the younger ages. But then you just sit back and say, how much of me can I give, and what will that do to others? And if you can answer, yes, I can, and damn it, go do it, right? Go do it. Be that difference maker.
Yeah, I agree with that too. You can't spend 90% of your energy on the 1% of the kids, right? Because then the whole team suffers. So you have to, like he said, divide that up. And a really quick story about a camp that we did, our little camps are mini seasons, right? We got 5 days with these kids to see what they're like. And, Monday they feel us out, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're feeling pretty bonkers and they're going bananas, right? So we had this camp, and you'll know what exactly I'm talking about. We're out there 5 days, and there's one kid that's just causing problems, right? And now he's bringing 2 and 3 kids with him. And we're like, all right, day one, my wife has her master's degree in applied behavioral analysis, which is behavioral therapy, like teaching kids. So I've learned a ton from her on how to interact with kids and what to do and those type of things. So I'm trying to get this kid to challenge him, to get him to do the right things. And just Monday, awful. Tuesday, and the practices are going, they're good practices, but this kid just like, we're just losing our minds, pulling our hair out with this kid, because now he's bringing 3 and 4 kids with him, and then 5 kids and 6 kids, and they're goofing off, and we're just losing our mind. Well, Thursday and Friday, he didn't show. Those 2, 3, 4 kids that he pulled along were right in line. All of a sudden, it was a completely different environment for that practice. No one goofed off. They listened. They paid attention. The kids that jumped on board with that kid that dragged the other ones didn't have that kid to follow. And it became great. The practices were awesome. And it was a shame because, we're trying to pull this kid along and, challenge him, like you said, to be better and do those things and be that leader.
But I said I would challenge my team.
Yeah.
To bring that kid, to teach him what we're all about.
And
we don't stop before the blue line. We stop over the blue line.
Right.
Yep. And I
feels welcome because, maybe there's distraction at home. We don't know that. Right.
It depends how long is your sessions are short. Right. And that depends definitely. Like same with me, with national team. Yeah. I can't take to national team the guy who will not in 2 weeks. I don't want him like
totally. And
to my team,
right?
Like it's going to be for years.
And that is my point. And that is my point. Every person here has a different answer to that question. And it's something you have to think about right here. And I guarantee you've thought about that, Olex, and you've been here, and it probably kept you up all night sometimes to figure out that decision because you're in a sprint. You're at the starting line and 100 yards down. In 10.2 seconds, your season is done, whereas other people may have 9 months. And you might do a little bit of homework to try and find out the backstory. Mom and dad are divorced. Grandma just died. Grandpa has cancer. There's a reason for this. I would take that kid all day long for my season. Could I do it for a 2-week sprint? Maybe not, right? Would I be willing to go out on? Yeah, I think your point, Helmut, I think you need to invest the time to find out about each and every piece and block, and every situation is different. And I don't think as a society, and I mean world society, not just the US, I don't think we take enough time to do that sometimes.
Yeah. From what I heard, I wanted to bring just one quick note. And it was something that Ted Nolan said when he was a head coach for Team Latvia. He said, we will pick a team that's going to get to the top of the mountain together and we'll come down together, which means that everybody is aiming for results. And when everything is fine, while we are rushing up there, it's all good. So we are kings of the hill. But when things get hard, when we are tired, we want a team where teammates will pick up the ones that are lagging and we will come down together, instead of let somebody die in the mountains because they are weak. So, and we skipped on better players on national team, better skilled players, maybe better track record, but their character didn't say. Because it's going to be hard world championships. I was there only for one world championships with national team, and we knew we missed a lot of key pieces.
You were at one.
Yeah, I was a coach.
As a coach.
Yeah, I'm talking.
You
as
were
a
a little
coach
bit
here.
more
Sorry.
times than that.
Thank you. Different perception. You see me as a player. I see myself as a coach here.
Anything else? Anything else coming through online? No.
On this one more thing, and then something just.
This is a great conversation.
Yeah, on this one more thing. I think I have there's sometimes you talk with parents and they are thinking about getting in your team and something, and when they're getting in when somebody is coming to my team, I'm trying to really set the boundaries, like to tell them what is going to be allowed, what is not going to be allowed. And if you agree with that, if you don't agree with that, thank you. You can I don't think I'm the best coach in the world, and I don't think how good I am or something. But there are many parents who sometimes, not many, but some parents, they would ask, oh, Oleg, do you need him? And I'm like, how old is he? 16? Do I need him? Do he needs me? Or does he need our team to get better? Do I need him? No. If you think that I need him, if you think that I'm asking him to my team, no. If you want to come and he wants to show, okay, I'll give him a chance. Yeah. And they're like, and especially also in the national team and so on, I have those things. And of course, like Artūrs said about, he's asking his opinion or something. Of course, for me, there are many people who hate me at this point and for not getting the guy on the team and blah, blah, blah. And every year as longer as I'm being U18 coach, as more people hate me, of course, in that area. But I don't really care in that because many people know that, like, you just have to be honest. Yeah. Many times you just have to be honest. And I think it was a great point by Helmut. I think it was a great point. And we had in the hockey school Riga, we had a guy last year, and he was really good, and he was really high drafted in junior leagues. Now I think he was drafted the only Latvian at age 15 for next. And so the kid, he was like the best scorer in Latvia in other team, and he comes to hockey school Riga, and everybody knows it's kind of like we kind of get the best guys because of something program and whatever, maybe some pay also. Many guys, best guys come to hockey school Riga. So this guy comes and he was practicing, and he doesn't know many things about defense, like nothing at all, pretty much, because he was scoring all the time. And there is 3 days he's sick. 3 days he's sick. And I think he comes on practice on Thursday, on Friday. The game is on Saturday or something like that. And the coach says to the guy, like, he comes to the game and he has been practicing for a day or two, but he was sick for I think for even a week or something. And coach says, you're going to be 13th forward today. So the kid, 15-year-old, or was it 14, he picks up his gear and goes away. And he's like the best in his age, I would say, scoring wise and everything. He doesn't understand many things. He goes away. So how you react on that?
Everybody has to make their own decisions and figure some things out. I think you lay ground rules and you live by them. I just on your point there too, please don't be friends with people. Please be, as young coaches, please be careful not to mistake desired friendship for people trying to help their own child. I coached pro in the Pittsburgh area, and I had a lot of friends back then who had kids that were either Chad's age or my other son's age. And I found out they were my friends because they thought I could help their kid. They thought I could help them get to another team. They thought I could help them get to the USHL or to college hockey or something. Please be careful not to do that. Be truthful to yourself and be truthful to all of them. The next story I'd say is when I get done coaching pro, I was my first year scouting for the Islanders, and I had some downtime. And unfortunately that year, a guy by the name of Matt Bertani was coaching the 1990 Amateur Penguins. And about a week before the season started, he got hired by Joe Batista to go coach at Penn State. So he left that team. So the parents asked me, hey, will you do it? I said, well, whoa. I'm not coaching, so I'm not dictated by the schedule maker. But this is my first year scouting in the National Hockey League. I need to be careful with this, but I'll make as big a commitment as I can. Super. And I just had the Northeast United States scouting, and the team was up there. The team manager said, if you are in Buffalo, we'll play in Buffalo that weekend. If you are in New York, we'll play in New York that weekend. Like, I'll make it happen. And he was wonderful. I said, okay, well, I need to meet with the parents. I said, here's the deal. We had 15 players and 2 goalies. And this is U15 Tier 1. It was the kids Ontario Hockey League draft year, major, junior. A lot of kids were identified at that age for the our national programs, it wasn't important. Yeah. I said, here's the deal. I got 15 kids and 2 goalies. Every kid's going to play the same. Every kid's going to play power play. Every kid's going to play penalty kill. Every kid, you know, next line up is going to kill penalties. Next line up is going to be on the power play, right? Goalie 1's going to play one game. Goalie 2 is going to play the next. Goalie 1, goalie 2. My son was one of the 2 goalies, and he was considerably better than the other kid. He played one. He played one. He played one. I said, here's the deal. We're going to 5 tournaments this year. If we are fortunate to make it to the championship of any tournament, coaches can do whatever they want to do. In the last 5 minutes of the game, coaches can do whatever they want to do. But for the other 40 minutes, they play 15-minute stop time periods at that age back there. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Goalie 1, goalie 2, goalie 1, goalie 2. I don't think in 50 games we used the 5-minute rule once. We only made it to the final of 1 tournament, and the rotation just happened to work that game. I don't think we used it once. Quick ending to the story. We had a kid with mono. We had a kid with a concussion. We broke a leg. We broke a wrist. And one poor kid and his father slept through the finals. We were at a hotel. We had played 6 games. They went back to get a power nap, and they overslept. So we played the final game of the districts to go to the nationals against a team that was stacked. 3 or 4 kids went on to play in the National Hockey League out of it. We lost to them 3-2 with 11 players. And you know why? And so Nick Gordon was one of them, our best player. Our best player, broken wrist, I think. No, he had the concussion. That was his first concussion. Like, I can go on. Like 3 of those 6 kids were 3 of our best players. These kids stepped up and played like I've never seen kids play. And you know why? Because for 50 games, they played. Next up, penalty kill. Next up, power play. So there's something to say, and I'll leave it at that. And we can talk all you want offline too. But Scotty Allen said, get me good players that want to work. And if we can make them better and get off the bus with better players individually, I'm going to be the best coach. And I hope you guys believe that too. So, Yanni, and for Viestas and everybody, thank you very much for having us. Very much.